here, also tornado, coming at you with another episode of Reseller Review. I'm really excited about this one. If you don't know Chris from Daily Refinement, he is just a complete wealth of knowledge when it comes to everything reselling. And let's see, Chris, I can hear your playback of the video on your side. If you could,
you can. Okay, hold on a second.
You get that nice mic, man.
Where is that coming from? Let me see. There's no audio on this side. Let's see.
It's coming somewhere. But anyway, so if you, I don't know where
you still have feedback from my side. I don't have I shouldn't have any feedback.
I'm hearing it somewhere. I don't know. Let us know if you guys can see and hear us okay. I was hearing something, but I think it's gone now. So anyway, so if you don't know Chris from Daily Refinement, he's just a wealth of knowledge when it comes to really everything reselling. I found his channel, I'd say about a year and a half ago. He was one of the first resellers I found, and he just kind of covers all the bases, but from running a store to I mean, he's obviously a large operation now, but his tips and tricks are appropriate for all levels of online reselling. So Chris, thank you so much for coming on the show tonight. I'm really happy to kind of pick your brain a little bit and just learn from you. And first things first, if for those of you for the people out there watching who don't know who you are and what you do, just give a brief little synopsis about that.
Hopefully this works and there's no echo in the background. What's up, guys? My name is Chris. I go by Daily Refinement online, and I run like a multi-platform online shop. And if you haven't heard of me before, I used to have this goal of listing 10,000 items on eBay, all unique SKUs, but I've sort of switched more towards replenishables now. But I'm loving it. And I think this is an awesome episode. I'm glad that you have me, because I got married a few days ago and I have a totally new outlook on life right now.
That's awesome. Congratulations on getting married. It's cool that you, excuse me, in one of your videos you posted before your wedding, you said that you guys were going to take your honeymoon after Q4. So it's cool that your wife is kind of on board for, seeing how valuable this week, leading up into Q4 is. It's cool that she's willing to postpone the honeymoon for that.
Absolutely.
So for someone that wants to be as knowledgeable as you when it comes to reselling, what do you think the best way is to kind of just learn more? I really just watch YouTube videos, but I know there's mastermind groups you can join and different resellers that sell guides and things like that. What's your personal opinion on what's like the best way to just grow your knowledge in reselling?
So I have a new opinion now than what I did when I first started. Right now, my new opinion is pay somebody to hang out with you in person. If you want to learn Amazon FBA, hire someone to come to your house and do an FBA shipment with you. If you want to sell on eBay, get a friend to come over and actually list items with you, because actually learning versus doing it for me was way slower. When I started selling on eBay, I actually flew straight to Las Vegas to meet thrifters. I didn't know that thrifting existed. I'd never been to a garage sale. I thought eBay was only collectibles and new. I didn't even know eBay sold used goods. I thought there was only two categories: weird, unique stuff, or brand new. So I flew down there, and in the course of 4 or 5 days, I learned about this whole huge, massive thrifting community. I got online, and of course, I watched a decent amount of YouTube, but honestly, I didn't learn as much as from the actual people. So that's my main tip for people is, instead of buying a $500 course, try to get around people that actually do it, and you can skip ahead a bunch of levels and actually have somebody that's worth talking to.
Yeah, that's awesome. I actually, I was talking to a guy today. I met him on Facebook Marketplace, and I was actually trying to buy some hats off of him. And he asked me to make him an offer. And when I kind of explained it, I sell on eBay, and this is probably what I can get for the hat, so I'd be comfortable paying this amount. And we kind of started a friendship. And he actually asked if he could come check out my reselling business, like how I operate things. So I'm thinking about I was thinking about him as someone who wants to learn how to do the business, him just coming out and asking if he could just come over and hang out and help me do stuff and, see my operation. It's a great way for him to learn how to do it. And I'm totally fine with it. So it's just like you were saying, just get in front of people who know what they're doing and just, say, hey, I'll come help you list things for 12 hours on a Saturday, totally for free, just for that knowledge and experience, because it's well worth anything you would get paid doing a job for that amount of time. Again, guys, I do have some questions here I'm going to ask Chris, but if you have a particular question you want he or I to address, feel free to drop it in the comment section and we will do our best to get to that. So Chris, how long did it take you to go from like a single person operation on reselling, like going from learning what thrifting was to selling on eBay to now having, I'm assuming, multiple stores that are almost, from your videos, it sounds like everything's almost automated. So how long was that process going from, just learning the baby steps to, managing a multi-hundreds of $1,000 business probably by now?
This is an awesome question. So when I first started, I actually didn't go too crazy because I was just trying to figure out how it works. And in my past, I usually get really into something without really researching it. So in this case, I actually took a step back and I met as many resellers as I could in person. The first year, I met as many people as I could and asked about their different operations. And the main thing that I got from reselling was saltiness. Okay, like I've never met a saltier group of people than resellers and people who've been doing sort of like the same thing over and over and over again, finding stuff, listing it, really, really, really frustrated with eBay, changing constantly, frustrated with people, sharing information online. A very, very negative experience is what I experienced when I first joined and learned about reselling. So I thought right away, I do not want to be like these people who are complaining. Like you should have control over your own life. So for me, I want to be a reseller for a living, but I don't want to complain. So, and I think the main issue comes from having to do all the work yourself. And when I ask these people, why haven't you hired someone? They always say the same thing. Can't find help. No one is reliable. No one cares about your business as much as you do. And after doing my own homework, I realize now it's because it's difficult to be the person that sells stuff, finds the good deals, and the person who grows the business. Those are usually different people. So I've shifted my focus to being more of an owner. So I'd say it took me about 1 year of just learning how things work before I went full on board with hiring full-time people. For me, I really focus on contractors because this job is really hard. So I've tried full-time work, I've tried actual employees, and I've switched to part-time contractors. I think eBay is fantastic for a short period of time, probably 2 to 4 hours a day. And that's why there's so many awesome resellers that do this part-time and so few people who flip stuff full-time. There's people who flip stuff and there's people who run an e-commerce business. I consider those two different kinds of people. Flippers are people who just find stuff and resell it versus people who own a business that sells similar products over and over again, or they are making their own products on Etsy and multi-platform. But there's a big difference between someone who flips for a living and someone who owns an online business. And for me, I don't think you can really do it in less than 5 to 7 years. I'm kind of biased because I don't have any kids. I don't have any responsibility. I have no student loans, and it's still super hard. So when I see people that, only have a small amount of time, they have maybe, a lot of overhead, I don't see how you can do it in a short amount of time. So building an e-commerce business for me is a labor of love. I'm not anywhere near where I want to be, but after 1 year, I started hiring people full time and started to do less of the stuff I don't like. But that being said, right now I'm in the trenches. I'm actually feeling super good right now because I am listing again. I'm looking at photography again. I'm back doing it again. And I really enjoy that part of it. It's like you don't necessarily want to automate your job completely away, but I like to see what it's like on the inside to improve it. And right now, that's where I'm getting the most joy, is just figuring out how to get this to work on its own and where I can just be in there and looking at how to improve things versus doing all of the work myself.
That's awesome. And that's a great segue into my next question, because a lot of new resellers that are part-time and are thinking about going full-time, they, I think people think they own a successful business when they have that first employee. There's just something that makes you feel good about it. So you said in a recent video that people often hire help way too soon. So what is a good way to learn in your own reselling business when a good time is to hire your first contract employee?
Absolutely. So the key is when you have too much supply, in my opinion. In the beginning, instead of spending money on a lighting kit or whatever, you should be spending your money on inventory, in my opinion, and really shortening that time frame for how long you think it's going to sell. I would much rather you sell a popular item than a home run antique item that may sit in your inventory for a while, waiting for that right customer. So you're going to hire someone when you can, basically to help you get more stuff listed. If you don't hire someone, if you're going to list the same amount of stuff, because that will cut your margins. Now you're essentially taking the profit you would have made doing it yourself and giving it to this other person. What you want to do is give them new inventory. So as an example, let's say you have a habit going of 5 new listings a day. This is my new strategy for people. You have to have a habit of at least 5 new listings a day. Then when you hire someone, don't stop doing those 5 listings a day. That's the main thing. People hire someone and they stop doing what they were doing before. And so they end up breaking even or actually going backwards when you hire your first person. So you can hire someone from day one as long as you don't stop doing the minimum required to get that cash flow. That's the,
Yeah.
like, I'm really into this right now where I'm making sure people have cash flow to live and survive while you work on other things like hiring an employee or a contractor.
Awesome. So just for people who may not know the difference, can you maybe go into a little bit between, like, I believe you said you had an employee and now you have a contractor. What's the difference between the two, and which one, in your opinion, is better?
So, in my opinion, if you have a commercial facility, you want to go actual employee because it's going to attract higher talent because you have somebody who's committed to the job. You're probably going to find somebody older than the age of, I would say, 30. Not that I'm ageist. I would happily hire somebody under the age of 30. It's just that under the age of 30, people are transitioning in their lives. They're getting married, they're moving, they're still in school maybe. And I don't want to continuously hire people. I'm looking for people who are more set. So if you have a commercial location, getting a person coming in is excellent. That's the way to go because you're paying them benefits, you're getting them an hourly wage, and that's something that someone can count on for extra money. This is probably not going to be a primary income for somebody because the industry rate for someone who works in a reselling business is probably 20 to 40 grand a year. That's not really that's not a gig that can pay all of the household bills usually. In fact, I think it's $11 an hour on average for a reselling job. A contractor, though, on the other side, you can pay up to $20 or $30 an hour, in my opinion, because you can pay per piece. So if you pay per item, photography wise, you might pay $1. You might pay, like me, $3 to have it described, priced, listed, packaged, put away, and I pay 50 cents for shipping. So it's like the difference between a contractor and an employee is really your expectations. If somebody's working on a contractor basis, usually performance based, and ideally, if you don't want to get busted by your state, in a sense that you have an employee but you're treating them like a contractor, they need to really use their own equipment. So when I first started, what people were doing was they would come to my house, they would get a lighting kit, they would get inventory, they would go to their house, set up the lighting kit and inventory the same way as in my house, take all the pictures, and I would gift them all the equipment. That way it was their equipment and not mine. And they can do it on their own time, make as much or as little as they want. That's a true contractor position. If you have somebody come in at the same time every day, leave at the same time every day, and you give them all the equipment, that's going to be misclassified. So people will think that's a contractor when really that's an actual job. If people expect you to come at a certain time and leave at a certain time. And for most people in the reselling game, they expect a ton from their people. And that's really the main reason why there's so much turnover. Because you're expecting like a $20 to $50 an hour employee to do what an $11 an hour employee would do. So
Yeah.
you got to set your expectations for what you're looking for. Contractor, you can get a much higher quality person that's commission based, and an employee, you're going to find somebody that is going to work just hard enough to not get fired.
Yeah.
So totally different people.
Yeah, I like what you said about like realistic expectations. I forget his YouTube channel name. It is the Rockstar Flipper, Casey Rockstar Flipper. One of his videos, he said he pays his one of his employees is like his sister-in-law or something, and he expects her to list. She's like a stay-at-home mom with a couple kids, and he expects her to list 60 items per day, like photograph and list, put away everything. And I just heard that, and I thought that was a little unrealistic. With especially if she's like a stay-at-home mom with kids running around and having to deal with that as well. And I think, like you said in your videos before, you hire somebody new and you expect them to be able to do your job just as good as you. And that's not going to happen. I mean, one, it's really hard to find people who have experience doing this kind of thing. I guess depending on your area. And two, it's hard to get people trained to do it exactly the way you like to do it. Like I've tried to hire somebody to take photos for me before, and they were okay, but they weren't quite right. They weren't quite what I wanted. So right now I've just just been handling everything myself. My wife is getting into it a little bit. She's actually doing some photographing and listing, and she's doing really well. So I'm excited about that. But as far as an employee or contract, I'm going to wade through that swamp anytime soon. Again, guys, for me or Chris, feel free to drop them down in the chat. We'll try to get to them as soon as we can. And just like Chris said in the chat, make sure to smash the like button. Really appreciate that. So Chris, do you have any tips on how to list faster? I know you outsource most of your listing right now, but I've seen you list things before and you seem to be very good at it. So what are a few tips you could give maybe a newbie on how to just make the best out of their time when it comes to listing?
This is like my favorite topic ever. So when it comes to listing faster, this is like my reason for living. When I look at how listing works, the things that really speed up listing are similar items. When you look at people who list 40 to 70 items a day, it's not 40 to 70 categories. It's like 2 categories or 1 category of the same thing over and over and over again. Also, if you use sell similar on an eBay listing, this is going to give you the most item specifics. So if you look at third-party software that helps you list on multiple sites, I use a macro, which is essentially just a set of instructions that my computer does. So what I'm doing when I list on Poshmark and Mercari and eBay at the same time is I write the title from a similar sold listing. So I'll look up a camera by the model number. I'll pull up one that's sold, sell similar. It'll pull in most of the data. Then I have a shortcut on my computer that will copy the title into Poshmark and Mercari and my spreadsheet. That's how I keep track of all of my items is on a master inventory list. So what you want to do to list faster is record every single task you do. Open up the browser, type in what it is into the search bar, click the sold button, write all of these steps down. For me, it's right around 90 steps. So when people say, oh, it's easy for me to list, it's easy because you have experience. But if you're trying to train somebody how to do it, they have to learn 90 things in order to list on multiple platforms. It's pretty complicated, actually. It's not difficult, but the complexity is very high. So if you want to list faster, you want to remove the complexities. And the way that you do that is you have more and more of the same item. So that's the secret hack. When you look at people that run massive organizations, they only have a few SKUs or they sell almost all the same items. I want to just make one huge point here that I'm super passionate about, which is the largest Amazon seller in the country. And this is the largest third-party reseller. So the largest reseller in the country only has 10,000 SKUs. That's not that many, because you look at how many people are on Instagram, there's probably tens of thousands of people who have 1,000 to 3,000 items in their store. That's very, very common. And almost anybody watching right now can get a store of 1,000 items, right? Yeah. The largest store in the world only has 10,000 SKUs. That's not very many, but they're selling hundreds, if not thousands of those items every single day. So that's why they're able to move that volume. Just to give you an idea of how big this company is, this one company sells more than every single Poshmark seller combined. That's how much speed comes from doing less listings that are similar. And those 10,000 SKUs, honestly, if you look at their store, it's called Pharma Packs. It's not even that many categories. It's maybe 50 categories, and they have 200 in every category, meaning they have 200 different kinds of chapstick.
Mm-hmm.
So similar is how you build speed.
Okay. Now, I was actually contacted by a company. It's called like Sellerbee or something. And they're like a multi-platform listing thing. And I looked into it a little bit, but I haven't yet utilized any type of third-party, listing or cross-posting or anything like that. Do you think for someone who is kind of backed up in this and they want to get some help with cross-posting, would it be best to utilize a third-party app like that, or using a macro, or just hiring a VA and hire them to cross-post manually for you?
This is a great question. So for most people who are just starting, I actually don't recommend cross-posting because the item management is very difficult. So okay, there's different stages. When you're just getting started, I would recommend you make one platform and do at least $100 a day before you move on to cross listing, because it is a bit of a learning curve for each platform. So when I started on eBay, I figured out how I could get it to roughly $50,000 a month in sales, and that was a matter of right around 200 to 250 listings per week on just one platform, no cross listing. Once I hit a goal of at least $100 a day in my store, actually it was like $1,000 a day in my store before I switched to Poshmark. When I switched to Poshmark, I had the same exact goal. How do I get this to, my goal at the time was $500 a day on Poshmark. Then when I had that, then I added Mercari. Then at that point, I started dabbling with Facebook and OfferUp and Let Go. And the reason is because those additional sites didn't have additional listing fees. So that's really important, because if it's going to sell on eBay anyway, eBay has an insertion fee and a store fee and a very complicated fee structure. So it's kind of it also has the strictest metrics for defects. If you cancel 2 or 3 orders out of 100, you are now below. Actually, 4 orders out of 100, you're now below standard, and you're going to get penalized with the traffic rating. So for those just getting started, don't multi-platform list until you're at least like getting $100 a day in sales. Then when you start getting comfortable with inventory management and you're comfortable and you want to start cross-listing, I recommend manually doing it first, because you want to understand what the macro is doing for you or what the third-party listing is doing for you. You have to do what I said in the previous step, which is write down what it's doing, because if you don't, you won't understand how to correct mistakes. All of these third-party platforms, the macro I use, they're not perfect. They do the best they can to move the information from one platform to the other, but it's not automated on a used product. The only way to get it so you don't have to check is selling brand new stuff. And that's usually not accessible for the common reseller.
Yeah, that's awesome. I mean, everything makes sense. That's one of my favorite things about your channel, is that you seem like so confident in any question given to you. And for me, I've only been reselling for like 10 months. So, I mean, your channel has just been a wealth of knowledge for me, and I've learned a lot from it. And I think really everybody has. And you've talked about before how your growth on YouTube isn't because of your production skills or anything fancy. I mean, you're just providing really top quality content and information to people who want it. So again, guys, if you haven't subscribed to Chris's channel, Daily Refinement, head on over there and check it out. I don't think I've linked it in the video yet, but I'll drop it in the video description once this video is posted. Head over there and subscribe. I promise you will not regret that. There was a question in the chat here from Glock 30 fan. Says, Chris, do you recommend that new sellers limit the types of items they sell from the start, or work toward that after they build feedback, experience, efficiency? So a lot of sellers like start and they want to.
That's a great question. I would say I would recommend not doing more than 3 categories when you first start.
Mhm.
But that being said, you don't know which 3 categories you're going to focus on when you just start. So it doesn't hurt to spend some time in Facebook groups, on Instagram, scrolling through. Do you want to sell lipstick and health and beauty products? Do you want to sell lotion? Do you want to sell grocery products? You want to go to Walmart and look at the clearance section? Do you want to sell lighting equipment and camera equipment? What are your hobbies? What do you normally buy for yourself? Are you a clothing person? Are you a shoe person? Whatever it is that you like, that's going to help you put the repetition in to get good at it. And that was actually brought to my attention because I hate the advice, follow your passion, because what if your passion is a category that's not profitable?
Mhm.
Then I'm super worried about people who are really passionate about succulents, and succulents sell for $7 at the grocery store. How are you supposed to do that online unless you're super creative and selling succulent packs? That's a difficult market to enter versus like if you're in the video games, there's already a built-in massive market. I feel like the people who say follow your passion selling categories that are popular. So that being said, figure out what you like, and then focus on 3 or less once you start getting into it. And actually, ideally, if I don't really follow my own advice, but one category is the most common person that does it for a living. And by a living, I mean between over $50,000 a year. The people that I have met, more than 90% of them sell in one category.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Again, you just hit the nail on the head, man. Yeah, I think a lot of new sellers start with the clothing. At least that's what I did, and that's what most people I know did. They start with clothing and shoes, and kind of grew from there. But a lot of people don't think about just like the pharma packs still on eBay. I mean, they're basically an online pharmacy. I mean, they're selling chapstick and everything you'd see at CVS, and people just don't think about selling those type of items. It's all just everybody just finds rally roots and wants to sell Tommy Bahama shirts. So I think it's important to kind of take a step back from like the typicality of reselling and kind of look for new SKUs that maybe nobody else is selling or very few people are selling. So let's see. Here's a non-reseller related question for you, just to get to know you a little bit better. If you could have dinner with 3 people, anyone dead or alive, who would they be and why?
Wow, that's a long question. So dinner with 3 people. I love the idea of continuous improvement. So whoever is in charge at Toyota, I would love to look at how they produce. Literally, they have over 1 million parts that go into the cars that they build. I'd like to look at how that system works. Like, how are they able to tell literally millions of employees how to put together giant things like this? I'm obsessed with that. I love the idea of everyone improving constantly, and that's their life. I love Japan. So if I could spend time with a product person in Japan talking about how they lay those processes out, it is awesome. And if you guys want to look at what continuous improvement looks like, it was invented in the United States, but the Japanese made it super popular by basically crushing electronics and the car industry, at least recently. And now I do think that Tesla is copying the same things. I'm really in the lean manufacturing, so that whole thing is part of one person that I would meet. Second person that I would like to meet probably is The Rock. The reason why I want to meet The Rock is because he has so much going on, and I'm curious how he picks what to do. When you are moving at that maximum speed, I think at this point he's already way beyond money mattering. So he's just picking what has the largest impact. And I really want to know how that works. I see him doing a lot of charity work. He still does a lot of movies, a lot of production. From what I last heard, it costs $3 million for him to do one Instagram post for your company. Mm-hmm. So how do you, and even though it's $3 million, there's still a long line of people waiting to give him that money to do a post, and he has to figure out what matches his vibe. And I always tell eBay, like if Kevin Hart and The Rock opened an eBay store, all of a sudden you'd get all the young people that don't care about eBay to care about eBay. And instead of changing the logo, that doesn't make any sense to me. Why would you spend millions of dollars changing the logo when people like myself, I like the old rainbow logo. I think it's cool. That's part of eBay, but they changed it to a flat corporate logo. That costs millions of dollars. I'd rather give that money to The Rock and make it super popular. Third person, probably just my wife. I like hanging out with her. She like grounds me. She's not really she's the opposite of me. She's not into risk. She would actually rather me just get a job. So she's on board with reselling, but she doesn't like social media. She doesn't like anything that does not have a trusted record. That's why she likes eBay a lot. She's like, eBay, Amazon, those companies are not going anywhere. That's the number one and number two e-commerce companies. Mm-hmm. So in our lifetimes, it's probably pretty safe that eBay and Amazon will be around the entire time.
Yeah. Well, that's a good answer. It's very sweet that you would pick your wife out of everyone in the world that has ever lived. So I'll be sure to tell her that. So she'll get you some brownie points.
Yep.
So you've mentioned before, you guys live on a very, very small budget in a very, very expensive town. What are some tips that you could give to help people kind of cut down their budgets, their real life budgets, so they can maybe go full time before they were ready before? If you can cut down your living expenses, you can go full time reselling before you would have before. So what are some tips you could give on how to cut down that budget?
Man, you're tossing me like softballs. I'm so passionate about this stuff. I used to have what's it called? Lifestyle inflation. In my 20s. I forgot who it was. Somebody introduced me to self-development, and I was like, yes, I'm going to improve myself and improve my stuff every single year. So I was getting a new car, new watch, upgrading where I was living constantly. And I had less savings than when I was like 16 years old living at home. So now, in retrospect, right now, what we're doing is I would like to contribute at least $1 million to our group fund. We are combined finances, but for me personally, in the next 10 years, I would like to save at least $1 million in that joint account for investing or whatever. I'm sorry. Let me be more specific. I want to put $1 million in this account for investing on top of whatever the bills are. So right now, I like. I can see the speed that happens when you don't have to think about stuff. So I'm wearing almost the same thing every day, eating almost the same thing every day because of speed. I have a lot more mental capacity to work on my business. Like when I look at, this is not a good role model, but there's a gentleman named Dan Blazarian who's like the most popular playboy on Instagram. And I looked at him, how he sets up his day, and he has 90 employees that take care of his normal life. So like, that is what the point of minimalism is for me. If you are on a small budget, eliminating all the different variables will help you earn more money faster. So for example, having no car payment, I had a $5,500 Prius until it just got totaled on my rental car service. But I'm totally happy with my $5,500 Prius because there's no car payment. I love having almost no bills because having FU money in the bank is the most satisfying thing. There's no amount of stuff that can equal not having any bills. The only bill and like I'm now, all of that stuff is interesting to me. I'm not gonna go to the point of trying to save every single penny, but I'm going to the point of clarity. So here's an example. I have a generator that I use at my storage. I plugged, and it tells you how much wattage is in all of the stuff in your house. So me figuring out off time, whatever electricity, the two of us, we only use about $20 to $25 a month in electricity. Hardly any. And this is like, I wish someone had told me this advice when I was young, which was, if you can save $1,500 a week for 10 years, that's $1 million extra on top of whatever you spend. And I think that everyone listening to this show right now can do that. You and your significant other can save $1,500 a week eventually. You might have to cut back on eating out. You might have to drive a crappy car. You might have to wear the same clothes. But imagine in 10 years from now, you'll have $1 million and you don't even need to quit your job. I hate people who say you can't get rich with a job when that's not true. Most people who are rich did it having a job. That is like the worst advice. If I could go back to my 18-year-old self, I would say, Chris, you do not have to be an entrepreneur to be rich. I wish someone had told me that. If I just kept my regular job and did reselling on the side, just save that money, in 10 years, you don't have to work anymore. Like, how tasty is the idea of not having to work for money? That has to outweigh everything. And this is, I want to really encourage people to not just think about replacing your income or just getting by or just replacing your income. To me, that's not exciting. You need to get a really exciting goal so that you can wake up in the morning and crush it. And if you don't have an exciting goal, then you're just going to wake up and just float through the day and not really get much done. But if you're like, in 10 years, I will only have to work if I want to work, that fire will burn. And that's why, money is a tool. And I think everyone needs to realize that you do not need to be an entrepreneur to be rich. All you have to do is be good at your job and save. So I'm blown away right now, because now when I see people with expensive stuff, I'm like, great. But because of the shared economy, like, for example, I'm curious sometimes what a nice car costs. I spent $110 to rent a Porsche for 2 hours to take my my now wife to dinner. And afterwards, we were like, we don't actually want to own this car. It was such a pain in the butt. We had to figure out how to park it somewhere where it wouldn't get damaged. It's really fast, so it's super dangerous. And it's like, the insurance, it's really expensive to actually operate and own one of those. It's actually kind of a headache. Whereas my car right now, I can park it anywhere and I'm not even really, I could actually leave it running. If somebody steals it, it wouldn't bother me because it's such a small amount of mental real estate. But I think when you start thinking about the freedom that having money in the bank happens, it's really easy to save money. Before I thought about that, I was always thinking, I deserve nice stuff. And you do to a degree, but like it doesn't make sense to have that instead of the money in the bank. It doesn't. When I look at it on paper and I weigh what's better, having an expensive car or using that money for experiences, I'm really, really passionate about keeping your expenses really low right now. I used to not be like that, but now every person I meet, I'm like, don't have any bills.
Yeah. That's awesome advice. Like, growing up in my household, like we didn't struggle, but both of my parents made very good money, but they basically lived paycheck to paycheck because we had a lot of nice things. And growing up like that, it's really hard to kind of break that habit. So, went off to college and maxed out on my credit cards, got credit cards, maxed them out. It took a long time of kind of struggling through those first years on my own to kind of realize what I was doing to myself. So turned all that around. I actually became a Dave Ramsey financial coach. That was my job for like almost 2 years. And through that, like we still have some debt, but it's it's better debt. It's not, 25, 30% interest credit cards that I use at JC Penney's, so it's definitely like our goal is just what you said, to just have no bills other than, utilities. If you can do it, excuse me, I think you said you guys live on like $1,700 a month or so in Oakland or San Francisco, wherever you're from, somewhere very expensive. And I'm obviously in South Carolina, so the cost of living here is very low, and the cost of living in most places is probably less than where you are, unless you're in like Manhattan or something.
So this is a really good question. Do I rent or own? So right now I have my total bills each month are $2,444. So this is $2,444 includes. I'm sorry, $2,444 is my mortgage. So my mortgage is $2,444, and my personal expenses, which is the cell phone bill, health insurance, groceries, entertainment, that's $1,100. So my total bills for the two of us is $3,559. So it's about $1,750 each. And we do own our place. But this is like this for $1,700 in the Bay Area is pretty slim. And the way that we're able to do that is kind of cheating because we have I'm a reseller, so I have credit card points. So that has allowed us to spend like probably 2 months a year traveling for almost free because the credit card points are so bomb with buying so much merchandise. But right now my bills are only I'm sorry, they're $430 a month. So about $100 per week is what we spend outside of food. And most of the time, the stuff that we do is free. So it adds up. And then when something expensive happens, we don't mind going out to it with a couple of friends and spending $200 on a fancy dinner or something. But it's like either simple or memorable. And I think looking forward to having dinner with your friends and going to a nice place will help you eat oatmeal at home on the days that you're not going. And so for me, I need something to look forward to. And that's like one of the biggest tips I have for saving money is if you don't have anything to look forward to, then you'll just frivolously spend.
Yeah. And I think it's really important to be financially savvy. As if you're a part-time reseller and you want to go full-time, I think one of the most important characteristics that you need to have is to be financially stable and to be financially savvy. If you are a shopaholic and you just want to get into reselling because you have so much stuff in your own closet, but you don't fix the problem of being a shopaholic, going into being a full-time reseller or even a part-time reseller with that spending addiction and that financial problem hanging over your head, you're just never going to find success as a reseller, in my opinion.
That is such good advice.
Which kind of transitions into my next question here. So there are many important qualities that I feel like one should have as a reseller of any degree. Organization, patience, fiscal responsibility, healthy diet, time management. Just some out there. What do you think are the 3 most important habits or characteristics that one should have to be a successful reseller?
So I'm going to reiterate what you just said, which is when you buy something, you actually get a hit of dopamine. And it's really nice. I mean, there's a reason it's called retail therapy. You feel amazing. You get into your car, you go buy something to resell, and it's like, yes, this is awesome. You get that buzz. But you're not going to get the same kind of buzz from listing or shipping. Those are just like consequences of trying to get this stuff listed and for sale. You're not going to get the hit like buying because it's just such a rush to buy something. And I think the healthiest resellers don't get emotionally involved in what they buy. That's going to be really healthy. Just look at it, numbers and cents. What is the item? What do you think it's going to sell for? Not what could it sell for. I like to look right in the middle of souls to get an idea of what's realistic. And I think the more you can separate yourself from the business, you're just going to have a much easier time staying consistent. And that's really the key part of this. Reselling is not rocket science. You just buy low and sell high, but staying consistent is very, 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 very hard. So I like the idea of just having a couple of goals. So for me, I'm trying to make my goals really easy. So right now my goals are drink a gallon of water a day, go to bed at 9 o'clock a day, and then 30 listings a day. So I want to reiterate this on this channel because this is the best advice I can possibly give. So hopefully it helps your audience. If you have a set goal that pays your bills. So for me in the Bay Area, I would say an income for someone that has my background is an average income would be 150,000. So when I'm not working in the workforce, I'm losing 150 grand worth of opportunity. Of course, in the Bay Area, jobs are pretty hard. They work you really hard. The people here don't have kids. They don't get married because their jobs basically take all day. But that being said, for me, 150 grand is the minimum that I have to do. In order to do that, I have to list 30 items a day. So that's my baseline. And I have more ideas than most people listening right now, and I don't have enough time to execute all of them. But I make sure that I get my 30 items a day listed. And that's keeping the wife happy because she's like, you can do whatever you want as long as you get the 30 listings done a day because that's going to secure our financial future. You do that, then whatever time you have left, do whatever you want. So that's really good to have her on board with the same goal. Also, it's pretty scary, not scary, but people here don't have kids. Like it's In of our family, when we had the wedding, it was 150 people. There was only one person out of 50 people under 35 married. Only one, and that's my wife. Everybody else is not married, meaning they're all career based and focus based. And I think that's kind of silly, because once you're 40, what are you going to do? Like, continue chasing your career? Like, it'd be nice to balance it out with some family. I know plenty of people who are massive business people that have no family. So just understand, the other piece of advice I can give you is that, one, you need to keep your cash flow going. Next part is that your family, I measure success differently. I want to know, like, what's your relationship with your family? How is your physical health? And how consistent are you? How much are you on social media? Nothing makes me more unhappy than spending like an hour on Instagram. That after that hour, I'm tired, I'm feeling inadequate. It's just like a buzzkill. So, like, look at your life as a whole. And then if you can focus on being consistent, getting that cash flow into your business, taking care of your health, taking care of your relationships so that you can stay stable. This is the big hiccup I see in businesses. I'll tell you, here are the biggest hiccups. Your pet dies or somebody dies. That can derail people for 2 weeks to a year. If you lose a loved one, or if you lose a pet. So that's really important. You should do the best you can to take care of your family and take care of things and people that you love, because if that gets screwed up, your whole life is screwed up for a little bit. And then your physical health, if you have health, in my opinion, you have wealth, because you can fix it. Whatever situation you were in. When I started reselling, I'm sorry, when I started on my entrepreneur journey in 2012, I probably had $80,000 in debt. All of that debt was business debt. So I had tried maxing out my credit cards to set up, to make an app, to try all these different companies. None of that worked. I had to carry that debt into a job. And then between 2012 and 2014, I basically paid it off, and then went back in the debt again, trying to start another company with my old boss 5 years ago. And all of my debt is business related. And at this point in life, I would never recommend people do that. I would just say, keep your day job. Even though right now I have all these skills, I would just say, please do not quit your job. Like, just suck it up, keep your job, resell on the side. And I don't even know if, honestly, I don't even know if I can honestly tell people to quit their job and be a full-time reseller. I almost can't do that, because there's so many people I know that are so financially sound and they still have a job.
That's really interesting that you say that, because I told you last week in an email, but I don't know if you got that one or not. But last Wednesday, right before our first live was scheduled, I was actually laid off from my job. I was an insurance underwriter, worked Monday through Friday, 8 to 5. I say I had insurance and benefits, but like, they took out money from my check for insurance. So the insurance really isn't that big of a deal, but they had like a matching 401k and everything like that. So I'm at the point now where I feel like it's too early to go full-time reselling, but I feel like I also have a good opportunity. There's like some movie I saw, I think it's like maybe Pearl Harbor or so, and they're like on this battleship and they're trying to sneak over to Japan or whatever. And they get seen by a Japanese ship. So they have to hurry up and get on the plane and go before they radio and get blown up or something. So everybody jumps on the planes and they take off, and they don't know if they have enough gas to get there. And I thought about that scenario while this happening to me. Like, I feel like I have to hurry up and take off, and I may not have enough gas to get there. So I guess just being selfish, like, what do you think? Like, I'm totally open about talking about everything. Like, what do you think? Like, what would you do in my shoes? Like, for me, to replace my income and my benefits and everything, I'd like to net about $800 to $1,000 a week. But let's say after taxes, $800,000 a week after taxes. And I've been reselling for 10 months, and I've been doing YouTube for 5 months. YouTube income is not, I mean, it's more than I thought, but it might be $200 to $300 a month or so. So the majority of my income is going to have to come from reselling. So what would you do if you were in my situation?
Okay. And I'm not a financial planner, but this is what I would suggest. I recommend that you get into the top 20% of your field. Whether it's reselling or whether it's having a day job, I always give the same advice because the skills required to get to the top 20% of your underwriting job or a sales position or reselling, those skills can be transferred to anything. I was always in the top 20% of my field in sales. That translated exactly over into reselling. I did the event in Kansas City called the Reseller Fam with 6 ladies who co-planned that with me. I also went to the Reseller Rally in Chicago. And what I do at events is ask people what they normally do. And the normal reseller is between 50 and 100 items a week at between $10 and $20 profit a week. So what that means is the average reseller is making between $500 and $2,000 a week. This is after tax. And so in the top 20%, I would say is like 1,500 to 2,000 a week. That's probably the top 20% of resellers right there. I would look at what that looks like. If you can do that, you can certainly just do reselling full time. If you know how to do that, which means you'd probably need, I'd say maybe $2 to $3 grand a week in sales. If you're comfortably in the $3 grand a week sales, that's almost 15 grand a month. That's a healthy living and in the top of resellers if you're just picking stuff. And that's really the key. If you can get into the top of your field, you'll make more money than you need. But the advice that I was never given that advice growing up. And if someone had just said, Chris, whatever you do, just figure out one time in your life how to get into the top 20% of those people, then you can translate that to anything that you do. And I've done that in actually a few different things in my life, but I didn't do it on purpose. I wish I had just known that, because I see so many kids quit because their parents are forcing them to do something, or you're playing the piano or whatever. But if your parents had just told you, maybe you don't like the piano, but why don't you try to get really good at the piano? Then you can do whatever you want to do in the future, and you'll know how to do it because you became good at piano. If I was told that as a kid, I may have been more motivated to stick with all the stuff that Asian dragon parents force you to do. So like, I didn't have any foresight, and that's why people don't get good. So for you, I definitely recommend getting into the top 20% of reselling, which would probably be around 3-4 grand a week in sales. And I would say that's right around 50K listed. If you can get $50,000 worth of stuff listed, then
and
maintain that, then you'll have no problem quitting your job, especially where you live.
Yeah. I mean, right now, like I'm almost at the $5,000 mark for my last 60 days. I've never hit that before. And I think I'm at like 4,900. So I've listed, between me and my wife, I think we've put up about 120 listings since last Wednesday. So I've really been hitting it hard, but this is all really new to me. And people ask me for advice. I'm like, I'll tell you what I know, but I don't feel like I know very much. So I don't know. Like I'm listing a lot. I have a lot more in my death pile that I can list. I'm still sourcing, because the last thing I want to do is list everything I have and then have nothing. And then you hit a dry spell at thrift stores and then not find anything for a few days. So I'm just right now I'm still applying for underwriting jobs, and I'm still, listing, trying to put up between 20 and 30 listings a day, and trying to source between 20 and 30 new items a day. So far so good, but it's still a long way to go. So, but thank you for that advice. You were out of all the people I know online reselling, you're the guy. Yeah, I know you said you weren't a financial planner, but I think you give great advice in all aspects of it. So we're getting close to the hour here, so I'll wrap it up with this last question. Chris, what motivates you to keep going? I know you started just like everybody else. You didn't know anything about YouTube. You didn't know anything about reselling. What has motivated you to, make it through those first hurdles that we all face, and develop yourself into someone who's so knowledgeable and successful on eBay as a platform?
So this is a great question to end on, and hopefully I don't go too long. But this is like something that it's changed. What I've been motivated by has changed over my life, and that's why I don't like the advice "follow your passion," because what I was passionate about in my 20s is getting rich And now in my 30s, that it doesn't matter to me. Like I'd rather have security, right? So if you're following your passion versus getting really good at something, that is not good. So now I've actually changed again. So in my early 20s, it was making as much money as possible. Then in my 30s, it was like being the happiest possible. So I actually took a step back from making money and just tried to figure out how to get great relationships, how to take care of my health. When I joined a $500 a month mastermind and I met all these guys that don't know their family but make $1 million a year. And I'm like, I don't think you can make enough money to buy your family back. Your kids already don't know you. They're already older. Your wife has no idea who you are. You never spend any time with her. That wasn't that interesting to me. So I took a step back and was thinking, okay, I need to make sure my relationships and health are on point. But now, and that's why I think it's cool to be on your channel right now, because I feel like I'm going through another transition where what motivates me is trying to get the most out of every day. So this is making it really easy for me to go to bed early, take a break, enjoy myself. And it's like you have 24 hours in the day. Everyone has the same day. And I want to try to get as much out of it as possible, have the largest impact I can, meet as many people as I can, and provide as much value as I can. So somebody emails me, Chris, I just got an email right now. It said, Chris, how do I get into the electronics pallet game? I want to sell electronics by the pallet, but nobody will call me back. So I was thinking, okay, I can say a generic answer like, keep trying. It takes persistence. And that's not very good. So I was thinking, okay, I'm going to make a video response. I'm going to think of the best things I can to help you do electronics pallet. Start that. I would say that in my group personally, a third of the people who I consult do electronics recycling, or they buy electronics by the pallet. That's a third of the people that I coach. And the main difference between us doing it versus a company, the people that I coach all have warehouses and employees, is the representation of themselves. They are companies. They're not resellers. They have a loading dock. They have an office. They have financing from the bank. They have all their books are clean. That's the opposite of somebody who doesn't know what's going on financially and does it at home. There's no risk to do it at home. When you put your skin in the game, you have a building and you walk up to somebody and say, hey, I'm the local electronics recycler. I'm down the street. Here's my business card. I'm available 9 to 5. When can we set up a time to talk about me liquidating your goods? I pay top dollar, and here's my cell phone number. You can reach me anytime. I'm really serious about my business. It's very different than, hey, I'm in my garage. What's the smallest amount I can order from you guys? That's a totally different. So trying to give maximum value, maximum thing. And right now, my YouTube channel has been way more consistent, way higher quality, because I've been focusing on trying to deliver really good value. And again, like right now, I'm looking in the chat. I definitely need to figure out Ethernet because I'm a little worried about the quality. That's why I haven't been doing any lives, because I want the audio quality to work when somebody is driving in their car. I want it to be useful. That's why I don't do. And you did a great job on this interview, because we didn't really spend a lot of time talking to the people in the chat. We were just trying to give them as much value as they can for their time. All the people who are watching this, make sure you smash the like button. This type of content is really hard to do. It takes a lot of time. It's not just this interview. It's also all the time Josh spent emailing me, going over topics, writing all the questions that he asked me. There's a lot of time that goes into this. And if we all chipped in and helped all these creators, then all information would be almost free, and you wouldn't have to really rely on a college education or a professional degree or an expensive course. But people who make content need small amounts of support, because that's how you do it. It's hard to make content that's really good. So I'm at this point, it's like what motivates me is having a really large impact and getting the most out of every day. I hear this saying that's like, make every day a masterpiece. I'm not that crazy about it, but I love that concept. I would love to, at the end of the day, be like, look at this beautiful masterpiece of a day. It's not really like that. Right now, it's just, a drawing on paper. But eventually it'll be a masterpiece, and that's really motivating me to get to the next level. And for everybody out there, just pick a goal that's exciting. Quitting your job is kind of exciting, but in my opinion, it's never that goal is too small to actually quit your job.
Yeah, the excitement is fleeting. Like
It is.
when I got laid off, I walked out. I was like, all right, this could be cool. And then like 2 days later, I'm like, all right, maybe this is a little bit tougher than I thought. So I don't know. But anyway, we'll go ahead and wrap it up. Chris, thank you so much for doing the show. I really appreciate it.
Thank you for
Guys, if
having
you
me.
my pleasure, my pleasure. Guys, if you haven't subscribed to his channel, go check it out. He's posting pretty much daily uploads now,
Yep.
and each video is just crammed with information. You know, there's so many resellers on YouTube. I think I probably have like four to six that I never miss an upload from, and Chris is definitely in there. So again, go check out his channel. You won't be sorry. You'll learn a lot. Chris, again,
Appreciate
thank you
that.
so much. And maybe we'll do some stuff in the future together for you guys. If you guys want some future videos from me with me and Chris with some better internet quality on my side, drop a like on this video, and once it's posted on my channel, drop a comment and let us know if you liked it or not. But anyway, thank you guys so much. Chris, thank you so much. We'll wrap it up here. Have a great night.
Thanks, guys.